others will join us. So my name is Abutu Ibrahim. I am a neuro branding expert, and I'm pretty sure we have a lot of business owners here in the room, personal brands and all of that. So Mr. Femi gave me the privilege to discuss the topic of branding with us. So he asked me to do that, although I've been doing that for a while. So this is more like a revision of everything that we've covered on the topic of branding. So most times I speak from the standpoint of for a personal brand, because that is what I actually specialize on. I work mostly with individuals, but I also work with corporate organizations as well. But just take this from someone who works with personal brands and has generated results for those personal brands over a while. And what we'll be discussing about today is more like everything we've discussed, but I have coined it into a topic, and it is called the art of seductive branding. It's called the art of seductive branding. Can you hear me on TikTok, please? So it's called the art of seductive branding, and you may want to wonder why seductive branding, why the word seduction, why should I use something like that, and why should I use something that sounds so romantic, that sounds off the topic? But here there is a reason for that, and that's because over time, based off my research and everything I've done for years now, I realized that the brands that have lasted for so long, the brands that have stayed for years, for decades, for even centuries, those brands have actually mastered the art of seduction. They've mastered the art of luring people. They've mastered the art of enticing people. They've mastered the art of going beyond what is in the physical to what is in the soul, to what's in the mind. They've mastered the art of not just the packaging, not just what they put out there for people to see, but what it does to their mind. And the simple term for that is neuro branding. But if you see it from the actual perspective of what it is, when you take people from a state, for instance, someone is in a normal state, not wanting to make decision, and then you take them from that point to a point where they should make a decision, then you have probably done something to entice them. You have seduced them to take that action. And seduction is not really as offensive as it sounds. Seduction is the art of attracting, enticing, or drawing someone in, often by appealing to their emotions, desires, or imagination rather than logic or force. It means instead of using logic or force to make someone to push someone to make a decision, or to, make someone take an action, instead of using logic or force, or, trying to convince them, you use ways that are more enticing, appealing, to draw them to make that action, to take that action rather. So you're not forcing them. For instance, if I want you to do something for me, for instance, so instead of me saying, let's assume I need 50,000 naira from someone, for instance, and I go to them and I'm like, I need 500,000 naira from you. I am certain they would say no, they do not have. The reason why I would first say something like that is because when I want to push them to make that next decision, the next decision becomes easier for them to make. And that is me trying to be seductive. That is me trying to be enticing. I'm using a simpler term for you to understand why I decided to use the word seductive in this narrative. So while it is often used in romantic context, so most times the word seduction is used in romance. We know that seduction is much more broader than what you think it is. It goes in more deeper. So in terms of branding, in terms of marketing, in terms of leadership and communication, seduction is actually about creating emotional allure. It's about building curiosity and intrigue. It's about tapping into unspoken desires, and it's also about leading people to take action without feeling pushed. It means you're not pushing them to take action. You are convincing them to take action. You are giving them emotional reasons to take action, not logical reasons to take action. Because the moment people start thinking, sorry, thank you. How do I even record this? I don't know how to use Google Meet. Let me see, okay, manage recording. Okay, thank you very much. So the moment people start thinking from the standpoint of logic, the moment people start reasoning before they take action, it becomes it becomes very difficult for you to convince them, because you've given them the room to have days to think, to be logical, to ask people questions, to ask people to help them make decisions. Mind you, you're not trying to deceive them. You're not trying to push them to make actions. That's why I said you're convincing them to make decisions based off emotional grounds. So you're not giving them that room to be very logical. When you give them the room to be logical, you give them that space to make decisions between what is much more important for them now. And it could be that at that point in their life, what you are offering them is not the best thing they need at that moment. It doesn't mean you are offering them something that they do not need. It just means that at that moment, that maybe that is not the thing they need the most. So when you give them room to become logical, selling becomes hard for you. So now, think of seduction as emotional influence with elegance. It's not about manipulation. It's about offering something so compelling. In tone, that's in terms of tone, experience, or identity that people choose to lean in, engage, and commit. So seduction in terms of branding, in terms of marketing, in terms of politics, in terms of communication, in terms of leadership, is not about push. It is about offering them something that is so enticing that they have no choice than to make a decision at that moment, that they should make a decision at that point. They have no choice than to take action now. That is the reason why you see people supporting certain political leaders. It is because these people have used words, have used actions to make them become followers. You are wondering, why are you following these people? Why are you following this person? This person is obviously a thief. This person is obviously a criminal. This person was banned from entering the US because of his dealings. But why do you still support this person? Because of the words they say and how they say them. Because of the way they speak to the heart directly. You know that these people are not going to take that action. They're not going to do the things they promised to do. But they have used words so much to convince you to make that action. It's the same thing with the terrorist groups. You see them convincing young guys to take bombs, to become suicide bombers. These guys they are convincing to become suicide bombers are actually very intelligent niggas. But because of the words they've used on them, the things they've said to them, they've touched a part of them. For someone to agree to become a suicide bomber, what were the words that were said to this person for this person to decide to become that? It's all emotions. It's all being seductive. Oh, when you die, when you die, you go to paradise. God will reward you, this and that and all of that. Just choking their head with a lot of different rubbish. But that is not what we are doing in our case. I'm only trying to tell you how far experience, words can go. So, in branding, a seductive brand is the one that feels irresistible. It creates emotional tension, offers a vision of transformation, and feeds the consumer deep psychological aspiration. Yes, so I said it feels irresistible. Do you feel irresistible as a personal brand? Does your corporate brand feel irresistible? Does your business feel irresistible? Creates emotional tension. Do you create emotional tension? When people interact with you, do they feel that urge to get your product almost immediately? That's why you see some people when they buy something, 20 minutes after they pay for it, they're already asking, where's the delivery? It's not here yet. There is a tension that pushes them to make that action. And most times when you finally get what you paid for, you might not be as excited as you were before you took that action. But for the brands that sell the most, this is what they do. Then they offer a vision of transformation. It means they picture you at the point you are now in your life, point A. This is where you would be after this transition. This is where you will be after this transaction. So after you make this transaction with us, after you decide to patronize us, after you decide to work with us, this is where you would be in the next 1 year. This is where you will be in the next 1 month. This is where you will be in the next 90 days. So what does this mean? This is the vision of transformation. I want to move from point A to point B. So how are you going to take me from point A to point B? Or you make me feel like who I want to be. That is transformation. You make me feel like the people I look up to. That is transformation. So then it feeds the consumer deep psychological or aspirational need. So I aspire to become something. I aspire to become someone. I aspire to mingle, to be in the circle of certain people. So how are you making me feel like I can be there? How do you make me feel? The reason why people patronize Apple is for certain reasons. Creativity, simplicity, design. You know the feeling they get when they use that product. You know the feeling when people get when they use your product. You know the feeling people get when they interact with you. How are you psychologically using that to seduce them? That is seductive branding. So in short, seduction is influence that feels like discovery, not pressure. It feels like discovery, not pressure. So the moment they start feeling like you are pressuring them to take action, it's no longer seductive branding. It becomes force. You become irritating to them. You become, what's it called? You become someone who feels like they should be the center of attraction, or center of attention rather. That is no longer seductive branding. I would like to refer to that as irritating branding. So this is how legendary brands, iconic leaders, and powerful messages pull people in without screaming for attention. I think I heard the reason why Obama became president was because of a particular speech. I don't know how true that is. But the words that are being said to them, the way you use those words, the way you use the design, the way you use the color, the experience, all of that together, they work hand in hand for you to get that solution, for you to get that result. So why does this matter? Most people think branding is about visibility. They think smart people, they think branding is about visibility. They think branding is about sales. They think branding is about marketing. Marketing is completely different from branding. Marketing is what gives you the sales, right? But branding is what helps the marketing to give you that sales. So until you have done the branding properly and you've worked on that branding, anything you do in terms of marketing, it has to be a repeated process and it will never end. It means you need to keep getting new customers over time. You barely see adverts of Apple anywhere. Because once you become a customer, once you become a user of Apple, it is very hard for you to stop using that product. It is very hard for you to stop patronizing Apple. It is very hard. The moment they release a new product, you're in for it. Same thing with many other brands. They're not hustling for new customers. Of course, they're in the market, but their advertising, their marketing is not necessarily to acquire new customers because they've gone beyond that point of acquiring new customers. They are only in the market for a reminder. They're only in the market to tell you their new launch. They're only marketing to tell you that, oh, there is a new product coming in 6 months' time. They're only in the market because they have competitors. They're not in the market because they want to gain new customers most times. Because at that point, they're at a point where it is like, we already have you. You are not going anywhere. We have seduced you enough that you have no choice than to stick around. We have seduced you enough that you now look like, sometimes emotionally, you now look like a slave to them. There are people called the Apple ecosystem slaves. I don't know if I'm one, but then what am I trying to say? They've seduced you to that point. Marketing is different from branding. Sales is different from branding. If you want to have repeated customers, if you want to build a community, if you want to build a tribe, that is when you need branding. But if you're in the market to just sell and not have returning customers, not have a loyal fan base, then you would go for marketing and sales. But the moment you say, okay, I want to do branding because the marketing team needs that branding to keep us in the market, for people to keep patronizing us. The same people that bought from us last month would still come to us this month for our new release. The same people that bought from me last year would still come for my latest release this year. That is what branding is. It is the experience. So it's not about marketing. Marketing is important. But the only thing marketing can do for you is to get you customers. Once you get those customers, how do you retain them? That is where branding comes in. How do you keep those customers? Because a bulk of the money you are missing out on, I can clearly say 70% of the money you are missing out on is because there is no proper branding to help retain the people that have bought from you before. So that's why businesses would make money, definitely, but they need to keep investing that money back into marketing. So, for instance, a business that makes 100 million naira in a year needs to put at least 40 million to 50 to 60 million naira back into marketing because they need to continue that flow to get the same numbers or even higher than they got last year. But a business that does branding can say, okay, we spent 40 million, we spent 60 million naira last year from the 100 million naira we made. This year, we want to make 150 to 200 million naira. And we're still going to invest that same amount of money, the same 50 million naira we invested last year into marketing. But this time this year, we are making 200 million naira because we already have a loyal fan base. We already have we already have a tribe that would buy from us. So anything we are doing, we are making more money than those who are putting the same budget, but they are just doing marketing, no proper branding. So that is why in most of these organizations, you see the team for branding is different from the team for marketing and sales, the team for social media and all of that. So now, let's move forward. Most people think branding is about visibility. Smart people think it's about credibility. But those people who are building a legacy, people who are building unforgettable brands, those ones know it's about seduction. So what am I trying to say? Everybody, the normal people think it's, visibility, visibility, visibility. Visibility is important. But the smart people, they know it's about credibility. So visibility without credibility is nonsense. Visibility without credibility would not give you results. Then those who are ready to become iconic, those who are ready to stay in the market for as long as possible, those who are ready to build a business that will last even after their death, they're the ones that understand that it's about seduction. Mr. Femi sometimes makes references to Starbucks. I do not have to tell you how seductive that brand is. I don't have to tell you about that. Look at Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola is one of the most seductive brands in the market. They know the game so well. Tell me how drinking Coke relates with feeling like a champion. But then they understood how to do that, and then they used it for their marketing. Well, that was branding. So if you see Coca-Cola in the market, the only reason why Coca-Cola is doing marketing steadily is because they have to get new people. Not like they do not have people to buy from them. They're not even trying to convince anybody. They've gone beyond that. But they need to be in the market because the moment you stop trying, you let your competitors take over. You let those people who are not even meant to be your competitors beat you out of the market. That is the only reason why they need to keep staying in the market, continue to do sponsorship, keep doing all of those things. So what are you doing to stand out? What are you doing for your business to become a brand? What are you putting your money into? So, because the truth is, people don't make buying decisions based on logic. Most times we don't buy things based on logic. The moment you give people room to think, it is very hard for them to make decisions. That is why, there are times when you wanted to buy something. You were so interested in this thing. But because the payment process didn't go through at that moment, you were like, okay, I'll try tomorrow. And tomorrow now, you have more sense. Why was I even interested in that product? Why did I want to buy that product in the first place? Because now you now have the room to think logically. You now have the room to think. Your logic, when I was teaching someone yesterday, and I was telling her about the 3 parts of the brain, the limbic brain, all of those things. And then I told her how one part of the brain is like a snail. It comes in very late. And that is the part of the brain that is responsible for logic. That is the part of the brain that is responsible for thinking properly. That is the part of the brain that says, emotion, sit one side. I want to be logical this time. Why should I take this decision? Why should I make this decision? Why should I want to be part of what this person is doing? Why should I be a part of this project? Is it safe for me? Is it necessary at this moment? Is it a good decision at this point in my life? That is what, if you let people think logically, that is what happens. Then it brings down your sales. But the moment you know how to use that emotional trigger, to make them make that decision, to push them, not necessarily push, rather, to take them to a point where they should make that decision, that is where your sales keeps growing. But how did you do that? It was through branding, marketing, then sales. Okay. They buy based on desire. People buy based on desire, on emotion, on a feeling that says, this is me. People buy because it feels like them. People buy because it feels like their dream. People buy because it feels like their aspiration. People buy because it feels like, yes, this is where I want to be. People buy because you motivate them. People buy because you inspire them. People do not buy because you have the best product in the market. No. There are a lot of people selling crappy products in the market, but they are making more money than the people who are selling the best products in the market. You know why? Because it goes beyond just product. Mind you, product must be great, but it goes beyond just the product. It goes beyond just that. Some of you are masters of perfection. You have refused to release your product for over 2 years because you think that, when I go into the market, I might not be as competent. It will look like I'm trying to deceive people and all of that. But then there is someone that sat down overnight and I guess struck him the next morning, the product is in the market. And the person is selling. You know why? Because they know the game so well. So it's not about perfecting the product. If you chase perfection, you will never meet perfection. You can only chase perfection. You will never get to that point of perfection with whatever you do. But the only point you can get to is to understand that, yes, branding is important for what I do. I might not have the best product in the market, but I have my audience. And I like to make references with the likes of Acme Speak Darlington. People listen to him. He has thousands of listeners on Spotify. What's the other one's name? The one that beat him in a boxing match. They have their audience. People listen to them. People will defend them anywhere, any day, anytime. No matter how stupid it is. Please brand it. Okay. So, seductive branding, like I said, it makes people buy based on desire, emotion, and a feeling that says, this is me. It doesn't just sell a product. It calls you in. It whispers to your subconscious. It feels like a mirror to your soul. It feels like there is a mirror in front of you, reflecting who you want to become. So yes, you are standing in front of that mirror, but this is where I want to be. This is where I want this to take me to. This is where I want to be in the next 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. This is where I want my life to be in the next 6 months. Let's take, for instance, the people who sell weight loss products. You see what they do to people. You see how they make people make decisions. They make them feel like the most terrible human beings to exist. And then they show them that, yes, you might be so terrible, but then this is where you can be in the next 6 months. This is how much weight you can lose in the next 6 months. They show them the reflection of how their life has been so bad. They have not been able to do things that people who are not as overweight as they are can do. All of those things, they put it together and then make it more emotional for them. And then they push them to make that decision, make them make the decision. That one is actually very bad. It is not a good thing to do, but that is emotion being used there. That is them being seduced, telling you that, yes, come have a night with who you want to become. Come have a night with who you dream to become in the next 5 years. Come have a night with who you want to become in the next 2 years. Come have that experience. Let me walk you through it. All right. So what is the difference between attraction, trust, and obsession? Let's begin with the truth. Everybody that builds a brand needs something. They need attraction. They need trust. And they need obsession. What does attraction do? Attraction gets attention for you. Trust opens the door. And then obsession builds the altar. You need these 3 things. Attraction, trust, and obsession. If you do not attract people, how do you get to build the trust? If you don't build trust, how do you get them to become obsessed with you? If they're not obsessed with you, how do they become loyal to you? So these are the 3 stages you must walk them through. Attraction, get their attention. Trust, open that door to them. Bring them in after you've attracted them. Then obsession, build that likeness, build that trust, build that likeness, build that love. And when the love is there and they're obsessed, they become loyal to you. And now what do you have? You have a tribe. You have an army that will defend you anywhere, any day, anytime. Yes. You see people defending the most stupid set of people in the comments. And you're like, how can you be so stupid to follow this person? But then this is their army. If you want something similar, go build yours. If you're wondering why they have that kind of army, go try and build yours. So, like I said, attraction gets attention, trust opens the door, obsession builds the altar. Attraction is the visual. Attraction is what they see. It's the color, it's the design, it's the elegance, it's the voice, it's the flirt. All of those things is what we call attraction, is what builds that attraction. It's what brings the attention. Then trust is rational. Trust is built on proof. Trust is built on clarity. Trust is built on consistency, and it's built on reliability. What did I say? It's built on proof, it's built on clarity, it's built on consistency, and it's built on reliability. So once you've done the attraction phase, the packaging, how you package the training. Sorry, can you mute your mic? Attraction is visual. It's the color, it's the design, it's the elegance, it's the voice.
That person is Matthew.
Matthew
is the person that needs to mute their mic.
Matthew, please. Okay, let me mute the mic. Yeah. Let me mute everyone. Okay. All right. So I said attraction is the visual, is the packaging, is the offer, is what you put out there for people to see. Attraction is the one you actually see, the design, the voice, the elegance, how it looks royal, how it looks rebellic, how it looks like a rebel rather, how it looks like hope, Then trust is the one that is rational. Trust is the proof, the clarity, the consistency, and the reliability. That is what builds the trust. Then obsession is emotional. It's how you make people feel about themselves through your brand. So whether you're a personal brand, can I repeat the outer part? Okay, I will repeat that, but let me finish this. Obsession is emotional. It's how you make people feel. It's how you make them feel. It is the point you take them to in their minds. How you intoxicate them with that hope, that feeling, that experience. That is what builds the obsession. So the reason why you are obsessed with certain people is because of how they make you feel when they are around you, or when you are around them, or when you listen to them or speak to them. So are people obsessed with you? Are your audience obsessed with you? Or is it that anytime you make a silly mistake, they will come at you in your comments and in your DMs? Are they obsessed with you? When they're not obsessed with you, you cannot build an army of returning customers, reliable customers. You cannot build that. All right. So the average brand stops at looking attractive. Every normal brand is just focused on attractive and pay designer, pay this to do this, do this, do this, do this, and all of that. That is what every average brand does. We need to follow the latest design. We need to do this. We need to do that. Yes, and you remain at that average point because you are more focused on the designs. You're more focused on the latest design, what you can do, what is the latest, and all of that. Yes, they are also very important, but it goes beyond that. Then some people go further to build trust. After they've done everything, they've created the product, they've created the course, the training, they've created the event, whatever, they've created any business that it is. It could be physical products, it could be digital products, it could be anything, They stop at that, the design, because they think the design is all they need to have. And that is why they will make the sales of people that think design is all they need to have. Some people would now go a step further and say, no, we've done the design. Let us go for the trust. Let us go and build trust. Then there are people who are elite brands. They are ready to take as much time as it takes for them to build that obsession. They want to become unforgettable rather. They go deeper. They are the ones that choose to seduce people. They are the ones that choose to seduce the minds of their audience. Seduce the minds of anyone that comes in contact with anything related to their brand. They will invest so much into that. So yeah, someone asked a question. She said, I'm sorry. She said, oh, can you please repeat the outer part? Okay, I'll repeat that again. The outer part is the obsession. What I'm trying to say is that obsession builds that altar for you. When you stand on an altar, it looks more like you are doing a ritual. You understand? So for you to get to that stage of obsession, it means something has to be done repeatedly over time. It has to be done repeatedly over time for you to get to that point. So I choose to refer to it as an altar. I choose to refer to it as a practice of someone who has an altar. For you to build obsession, it has to be that you have a routine to consistently do that for you to build that obsession. So that was what I meant with that. All right. So there are 3 layers of brand influence. There is the surface, there is the subconscious, and then there is the soul. Surface, subconscious, and soul. Yeah, this is not like the cliche kind of branding topic. This is not like what every other person will tell you. It will be about designs, and all of that. And then you put the designs in, no changes. Because they're not telling you exactly what you need to be told. So there are 3 layers of brand influence: surface, subconscious, and soul. So to truly seduce your audience, you must understand how your brand will interact with your audience psychologically. How your brand will interact with your audience psychologically. If you do not understand that, then you cannot build a brand. The first one is the surface, the second one is the subconscious, and the third one is the soul. The surface, this is what your audience sees first. That's the first thing they see. That's what they come in contact with. For instance, I have a training and it's called The Art of Seductive Branding. The surface is what you see, the flyer, The Art of Seductive Branding, and then, the outline of the training, everything, it's on the flyer, it's on the design. That is the surface. That is what every other person sees. Do you think that is what would make the sales that I need to make for that training? It might pull in some sales, but not as much as I intend to make, because that is the surface area. But what if I choose to go into the subconscious? What if I choose to go into the subconscious, which I did in the same design, but I didn't stop at just designing, the colors and all of that. That is the surface. How am I going to make people feel? How will my words make people feel for them to make that decision? This is where the real seduction begins. The subconscious, in the mind, psychology, neurobranding. That is where it happens. The cliche one is the surface area and all of that. So at this level, your brand starts speaking to the hidden desires, the fears and the aspirations of your audience. So this time around, you are using narrative, you are using archetypes, you are using sensory language, you are using rhythm, and you are using the energy to bypass logic. You are trying your best to bypass logic. The surface area is where people would use their logic to reason. That is where their logic would kick in. That is where their logic would tell them that, this one is just like every other person. That is the surface area. But the moment you choose to also incorporate the subconscious psychology, you're doing everything possible to take them off that logical ground and take them to that part where you can psychologically operate their mind. You're using their emotions, not necessarily against them, but you're using their emotions to help them make the decision that you want them to make. You are building that desire in them. All right. So it's not about what you say, it's about how you say it. So someone can still say everything, like I said, say this to them, say this to them. But how you say it is what determines the decision they are going to take, the action they are going to make. That is what would also determine that. You are no longer convincing at that point. You are not in the point of convincing. You are awakening something in them. That is when you build a tribe. You can only build a tribe when you awaken something in them. When you operate them to make decisions. When you tell them that, yes, I am different from every other person. This is me. This is who I am. I have the solutions to your problems. I can help you solve your problems. I've been there before. I have stories of those things. I have stories of people who have the same experiences as you have. And even to the littlest things, even to something as tiny as a needle, all of these things can be incorporated into it. They have luxury needles, right? All of those things, how do they get to do that? So you're thinking that this does not apply to your business, it does not apply to your brand, it's all lies. It applies to every business. It applies to everything. So the next one is the soul. This is where the elites, those brands that you heard, they said they've lived for over 100 years. They are the ones that said, yes, this is what we are going to do. They are the ones that went beyond the subconscious and then tapped into the soul of their audience. Tapped into the soul of everyone that comes across any piece of material from them. This one is rare. It is hard to see. So at the soul level, your brand becomes a part of who they are. At this point, they do not have a decision. Even if someone comes with the best, at that point, they are stuck with you. The only choice they have is you. Even if a scandal comes out about you, they will stick with you. Because at this point, you have their soul. It's more like, yes, you have them, you have their soul, you have their spirit, you have their body, you have everything about them right in your palms. That is when you say, army. You control them, you can tell them to go to war for you. Someone is dragging me here. I need you guys to go and do what you know how to do for me. And then you see them trooping into that person's wall to drag the person. This is for personal brand. What about corporate brands? You also need to incorporate this into anything you are doing. Stop focusing on just marketing. Market, promote, but understand that you must also put branding first. Branding is important. Yes, it might be difficult because it takes years. Branding never ends. First of all, branding never ends. And to achieve a good brand, in your first 5 months, 6 months, 1 year, it might look like you're doing nothing. Because that is how long it takes to make a statement when it comes to branding. All right. So then, the next one is emotional resonance versus information overload. Let me make this very clear. Information does not convert. It's not information that converts people. It is emotion that makes people to take action. It is not the information you are giving to them. The information is important. But how are you using that information to trigger their emotions, to help them make that decision? To push them to buy, to push them to say, yes, okay, I want this. Maybe I do not have the money now, but I will get the money for this. This sounds like me. This sounds like something I've been looking for. This sounds like the solution to my problem. This person looks like the person that has the solution to my problem. This person looks like the person that can offer the service I need at this moment. How are you using it for yourself? Information does not convert, emotion does. Most brands, Most brands in the market, they drown people in data. All they care about is giving them data, talking about features, and then bullet points, all of those things. Yeah, features, 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 big English, grammars, thinking that that is what people want. All people care about is the solution. All people care about is how you can take them from point A to point B. You can be the most logical in the market. You can be the most logical choice in the market. You can be the person with obviously the best, but people would still choose to buy from someone else. Someone who is not even worthy to be your competitor in terms of quality. But why do they go to those people? Because there is a certain way that those people make them feel. See, don't worry, your product, the product you have created is the best. It is great. But the reason you are not making those sales is because you think that, yes, okay, I want to do branding. Branding must happen now. Or you think you do not need branding. That is the reason why you are not making those sales that you think you should be making. Forget about the designs. The designs are important. You already made those designs. But putting in all of those energy now into the design and the marketing and no results, there is a reason for that. There is a reason for that because you've chosen to ignore something. And then you're looking at becoming like Nike, you're looking like becoming like Apple, you want to become like so and so brand, but you're not willing to do the things they did, how they seduced people, how they push people to make decisions. How are you going to do that for yourself? How are you going to do that for your brand? Are you a personal brand? Are you a corporate brand? Are you an organization? Are you an institution? Why are people in the market making having much more results than you? Why are people who are not worthy to be your competitors doing more than you? Why are people who are not investing as much as you're investing in terms of time, money, resources? They are making more than you are making. Because they choose to brand properly. Because they choose to build an army. Because they choose to build a tribe. Because they choose to build a tribe of loyal audience. All right. So what are those things that create emotional resonance? The things that create emotional resonance. The first one is storytelling. This one mirrors them. This is the one that actually helps them see themselves as what they want to be or where they want to be. Then the next one is the language. That one feels very familiar. So you speak the language they can understand. You talk like them. You speak in their tone. If what they understand is pidgin, speak pidgin. If what they understand is how to bash a certain group of people, bash those certain group of people. But subtly, not obvious. What is the language they speak? Speak their language to them. Don't come off as someone very different because even you want to relate with people that speak like you, think like you, and understand things the way you understand. So why do you choose not to do that with your customers, with your fan base, with your audience? Then the next one is tone. That is what carries emotional texture. So even the way it sounds, when I am reading it, I would know if you are being rude, if you are being arrogant. How do you sound? How does your branding come off to them? What is the tone? That is what builds the emotion. Then symbolism and metaphors. This one is what ignites their imagination, Just telling them the kind of things they want to hear. You're not deceiving them. Mind you, you're not deceiving them. You are saying the things that you know they're already thinking. You are saying that exact thing to them. So this is you confirming their thoughts to them that yes, your thoughts are valid. It will take time, but you would get to that point, and I have the solution to that. Then the next one is presence. That invites, like, what do I call it? Presence. They should feel like you care about them as much as they care about themselves. They do not care about you, but you must care about them. Once you start caring about them, they start caring about you. That is when they become loyal to you. Even when you refuse to drop a product or you refuse to release a product, they will be the ones to come to you. We have been waiting. What's taking so long? I want to pay for your class. So there are people who have released the same products year in, year out, month in, month out, over time. And they have the same people buying that same product from them. Buying that same exact product. These people know that, yes, this product is the same thing with what I bought last month, last 6 months, last 1 year. But because it is coming from this person, I will buy it. I still have a lot of them in my room, but I will still buy. Because this person, I am loyal to them. And it's more like, okay, till death do us part. All right. So the next one is, let me give you a case study for Apple and for Netflix. How they use psychology to their advantage. Apple, for instance, Apple is more on the minimalist side. Apple is not doing too much. They don't care about doing the latest, foldable, flip, See all these foldable phones and flip and all of that. They don't care about it. Everyone is doing it. Everyone is doing it. They choose to stay simple. They choose simplicity. Apple, they don't sell phones. They're not actually in the market. Of course, what they're selling is phones, right? But what they are actually selling to you is identity. They are selling an identity to you. When I use my MacBook, for instance, I feel more creative. I want to work more. If you give me a Windows, for instance, there's a way it makes me feel. I don't want to use it. I'd rather use my phone to do what I want to do. But when I am on my own personal laptop, which is a MacBook, I feel like, yes, I am more creative this time. I know what I am doing. Sometimes, even when I don't know what I want to do. But it gives me that feeling. How did they do it? It is even from the design, the interface, the user experience. All of those things together is what built that particular feeling. And I am not the only one who feels that way. Everyone who is loyal to the Apple ecosystem feels the same way when they use an Apple product. So it's not like one person is feeling this way, the other person is feeling this way, this other person is feeling this way. Of course, there are certain things that we expect them to do, which they have not done. But we are ready to overlook it for the next 20 years. We don't mind. That is what loyalty means. We're not complaining. We will defend them when the Android users come. But mind you, deep down, I know that Androids are better. Deep down, I know that Androids will do a better job than the device I use. But do you know why I would not switch? Because I must stay loyal to that brand. They didn't come to me to tell me that, Ibro, you must be loyal to us. They didn't come to me to beg me that you must be loyal to me. They don't even know me. But I choose, because of how they made me feel, to stay loyal to them. And they must take my money. I am willingly giving my money to them. They're not forcing me. That is seduction. They're not forcing me. They're not saying you must buy. But they have seduced you enough to take that action. All right. So I say Apple doesn't sell phones. It sells identity. Its seduction lies in elegance, simplicity, and unspoken promise. You are not ordinary. You are creative. You are an elite. Apple makes you feel like an elite. Apple makes you feel like you're not an ordinary person. Apple makes you feel like you are creative. So that's why you can see people in the brokest part of Nigeria, they're still using the latest iPhones. They're still using the latest Apple gadgets. How did they afford it? They probably saved. They probably did something fraudulent to get the money. But they must use Apple. Because of what? Apple makes them feel like who they want to be. It gives them that feeling of who they really, really want to be, who they actually desire to become. So these celebrities are using this. I must use it too. I want to feel like them. The richest gangs are using it. I must use it too. I want to feel like them. That is the feeling in them. That is what Apple wants them to feel. That was why Apple chose to stay exclusive from the market and not use the operation system that every other brand uses. They want to be different because they want people to feel different. So that's why even when you use a Samsung, the only way for you to feel different when using a Samsung, honestly, is when you use the Flip or the Fold. It gives you a feeling, right? But when you use the normal one, you still look like every other Android user using itel, Infinix, and Tecno. That's the honest truth. Because it doesn't make you feel exactly how you want to feel. All right. So Apple says you are not ordinary. It says you are creative. It says you are an elite. And I think you notice how every product they launch feels like it's a ceremony. So when Apple wants to launch a product, for instance, they make it a ceremony. It looks like a ritual. They celebrate everything. That is proper marketing. That is seduction. That is ritual. What are you doing? What is the effort you are putting into your branding? You can't continue to complain that sales are not coming in, we're not getting the results we want to get. We have put money into advertising, but we are not getting the results. Is it that the product is bad? No, the product is not bad. Your product is not bad. It is your branding that is bad. It is the experience that you're giving to them that is bad. That's why when people buy from you and you say, please endeavor to drop a review, please drop a review. They don't care about dropping a review because what their interaction with you was shit. Patronizing you was shit, although your product is great, but they don't think they would come back to you. They don't think they would want to buy from you. Let me give you an example. Two people in the same business, let's say real estate, right? Let me go off all this. Let's say real estate, and then there are two people, they want to sell the same property, and they come to you. One comes to you to tell you about how is a six-bedroom mansion, it has a pool, and all of that, the regular things they will tell you. And then the other person comes to you and tell you that This goes beyond just buying a home for your family. It is also an investment, telling you how in 2, 3, 4 years' time, this property must have increased by 30, 40, 50, or even 100%. How this property is like it's 10 minutes drive from the airport. Every other person says that, but imagine them telling you that this is like an investment. So aside just living in this property, if you choose to sell this property tomorrow, you would make money on it. And then they go on to say, when you want to sell it, please tell me, because I would like to be the one to still sell this property out. They would make you feel very different from the person who was telling you about just the pool, the spacious room and all of that. Because the person understands how to make his customer or his clients feel like they are not stupid. Feel like, yes, they are making the right decision. I would like to use another brand. You want to buy a phone, and then you go to 2 phone dealers, and one is telling you how it is 256 gig inbuilt space, how the camera is 64 megapixel, how it is running on iOS 19 or whatever. And then one tells you that when you use this particular phone, right? No, there's how these guys do it. They come off and tell you things like, you're a big boy. You're not supposed to use this. You're not supposed to use 12 Pro Max. You're not supposed to be using 12 Pro Max. You should be using the latest gadget. You actually came to buy maybe a 14 Pro Max, for instance, but you ended up buying a 16 Pro Max. You know why? Because they made you feel like you should be in the same league with the top Abuja boys. Why are you going for a 14 Pro Max? Why are you going for a 13 Pro Max? Why are you going for a 12 Pro Max? Go for the latest one. When in reality, all these products are the same thing and you're wasting money. But no, they'll rather make you feel like, yes, you are in that position to buy that particular product. And maybe after you buy it, when you get home, you are like, this thing is still the same thing but with what I was using before. But they gave you a different experience. That was where you made the decision. They didn't deceive you. But you didn't need it. You probably didn't need it. But they've made their sales, and that sales counts for them. You can't go back to return it because nothing is wrong with what they sold to you. It is the same thing with the car dealers. It is the same thing with the car dealers. Look at this guy that is always saying his cars are not for civil servant and all of that. There is something it does to even the civil servant's mind, that when the civil servant has the money, the civil servant will go to that same person to prove a point to that person that, yes, I am a civil servant and I can afford your cars. And then it does something to the wealthy that, yes, this is who I should identify with, because he doesn't identify with the civil servant. He identifies with the wealthy, and I should patronize him. This is him using one stone to kill 2 birds. That is how it works. He's different from every other person. Every other person is selling cars. They are making sales, but not as much as that particular person would make. All right. So let me give you a final thought. I would want this to just be an hour. So seduction is the soul of branding. If you want to build a brand that people would remember, admire, and chase after, you must go beyond strategy and enter psychology. You must go beyond just strategy. Strategy is important. Strategy is very important, but you have to go beyond that. You must move from making sense to making people feel. So instead of making sense alone, you need to make people feel something. Sense is logical. Feeling is emotional. Take it from that point that, okay, yes, I want to make sense, but I should be more on the side of people's feeling. I should be more emotional. Then, instead of showing up, be like you are in their life. Be like you are more concerned about them. Remember them before they remember themselves. Talk to them before they talk to themselves. Be more concerned about them than they are concerned about themselves. Be scared for them than they are scared about themselves. So that's when you give them an offer, you put in fear. That's what we call FOMO. Then the next one is, instead of being like, be someone that is being longed for. Someone that they crave you like food. So instead of people liking you, go beyond that and build something that would make them long for you. Build an experience that would make them long for you. Be interested in you. The best brands in the world don't beg for attention. They do not beg for attention. They command devotion. Like a religion. They command devotion. Not because they shout louder, not because they made the loudest noise, not because they were on social media the most. Not because they spoke to more people, not because there were at many trade fairs, no. But it was because they whispered deeper. They touched a particular pain point. They touched a particular part in your heart. They made an emotional push. People do not fall in love with information. People are not really interested in information overload. People are not really interested in reading. People are not really interested in watching an advertisement for long. They fall in love with how your brand makes them feel about themselves. Start understanding that it is not about you. It is not about what you think is best for them. It is what they know it is best for them, or what they think it is best for them. Know how to use that for yourself and for them. I would have loved to say against them, but no, you don't go against them. It becomes evil. All right, so I would like to stop here for today. We would have subsequent classes, and all of that. So this is where I would like to stop. Mr. Femi. Mr. Femi. Okay, so I'll just close up from here. So Mr. Femi asked me to, say something to you guys, to tell you about a program coming up, and it's called the Art of Seductive Branding. It is my program. It is a 3-day branding program, the Art of Seduction in terms of branding, how to build your brand with sales and all of that. It is for 3 days on Google Meet. I'm going to send the details to the group and all of that. And then if you're interested, you can send me a DM. And, either you're a personal brand, you must have a business. So it's either you're a personal brand, a corporate brand, one of these two. A thought leader, if you're in any of those niches, you can reach out to me and then we can talk about that. Thank you very much for your time. Is there anyone that has a question to ask? Let me check TikTok. Is there anyone that has a question to ask? You can please ask your question. I'm sorry. If anyone has a question, you can raise your hand and I would attend to the question. I'm sorry. All right, so I think there is no question. We would end that class on the Art of Seduction for today. We would end that here and then we would continue on a later date. Thank you very much, everyone. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Ibra?
Yes.
Ibra?
Yeah, I can hear you clearly.
Ibra?
Yes, ma'am?
I just want to say thank you so much for your for this positive information and instruction.
Yes, ma'am.
And thank you so much for your work that you've been putting in.
Thank you very much, ma'am. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it all.
Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Hi, Ibrahim.
Yes, thank you. Oh,
Yeah.